Hey guys, it's been 5 years since I videoed my first ad, and we've had some questions from you about post-abortive grief and where my story is up to now. So my friend Rach here shares a similar story to me, and so yeah, we're just going to have a chat about some stuff today. I guess when I think back to the first parts of it, the first thing is just a willingness to even tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Like between when I had an abortion and when I realised that I might even have any issues, I think it was 8 years. And so I didn't identify any of the problems that I had as connected with an abortion. But anyway, it was still hard to find someone to talk to about it.
Yeah, I think that's very similar. You know, I was quite an angry person, out of control, quite a bit of my emotions, I guess, and I would never have told you that had anything to do with my abortion. You know, I just thought that was part of who I was and who I'd become. So for me, yeah, it was, I guess, a realisation through the help of friends, you know, and the conversation I had with you to realise that what I was going through was actually part of the grieving process, and that was actually valid.
And that got harder for you, didn't it? It was kind of like, I can remember your first responses being like, why am I doing this? Like, this seems like my situation's getting worse, not better. I guess I think it's important to make room to grieve.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was really fortunate to have you, who was a step ahead of me, and that's something, you know, if I couldn't encourage enough to people is find someone, you know, who is that step further in the process. Because for me, if I'd been alone in that, you know, knowing that it was getting harder and things did hurt, it would have been easy to retreat and give up. But, you know, having the encouragement to say, you know, I was there too. Yeah, it does suck. Yes, it does hurt. Yes, there is pain, but it does get better is, I guess, what made it doable to go through further.
And I didn't have that. The people I talked to about it first, none of them had had abortions. None of them had had... Actually, some of them had not had any experience with people who'd even had abortions. But they were safe people. Like, even though they didn't have the experience necessarily, they did have the experience of supporting people through difficult stuff. And so I think that's really important, even more than the necessity that they've gone through the same things, is that they're the kind of people who are willing to walk through stuff with other people.
Yeah.
I'd read stuff at the clinic that said post-abortive grief didn't happen. And I kind of just thought, oh, well, it doesn't happen. So I didn't identify anything in my life as that. Like, for me, I know I did a bit of a nursing degree, and so I did anatomy and physiology and learn about fetal development and stuff, and suddenly realised a whole bunch of things that I guess I just believed. And I remember, you know, seeing on the little developmental chart the size and shape of a fetus at 8 weeks, and remembering what I'd convinced myself was true about, I think somebody had told me, you know, the fetus would be the size of half my fingernail and just a cluster of cells, and somehow seeing that visually and realising that there was not an integration between those two things. Like you say, I was like, how do I even feel about that? How do I, because what I made the decision on wasn't reality, and so letting that, like making space for that reality meant I had to then make space for the feelings that brought up.
As you said, looking at what size my baby was when I did have my abortion, you know, meant I had to actually start looking at how I felt about that and what that meant to me.
I think as well for me, I can remember reading a couple of books that were stories more than anything. I remember even watching Juno, you know, that movie about the girl who... the pregnant teenager who keeps her baby, and just experiences of hearing other people's stories. And I guess that's partly why we're doing what we were doing today, just realising that there were stories of people who carried through pregnancies who were glad, or who terminated pregnancies who were sad. So reading Giving Sorrow Words, which is a whole collection of stories about women who had abortions and what that meant for them, without, like you say, the overlay of opinions, gave me more of an opportunity to kind of think about what I felt.
You know, I'm walking out not having any kids in the flesh with me now, so that's probably changed what my healings looked like as to what yours has. And so I think it's really important to not limit what the healing is going to look like, what you might require, what hurt you might uncover, because it will look different.
I guess you're sort of talking about yourself as a mother, or I've heard you talk about that before, but you don't actually have kids. Is that kind of a hard...
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's not something a lot of people understand either. You say you're a mum, where's your child? That can be difficult, and just, I haven't got to enjoy a lot of the things that come with motherhood. I haven't got to hear their first laugh or change their first nappy or any of those things, and that is difficult. But we stand alongside women who have, say, lost a baby, and we grieve alongside them, and so I think what's been really great for me is people have come alongside me and let me grieve the child that I don't have here either, and I think that's really important because the hurt is just as real.
I can remember thinking when somebody suggested maybe I name the baby, and just thinking like, that is just going to make me an emotional basket case, and how is that going to be helpful? And I remember them really encouraging me, that this is sort of surgery, it's heart surgery, and so you've got to prepare yourself for it, you've got to get really good experts involved, it's going to hurt, it's going to cut you open, and then it's going to have recovery time. And I think that's the thing with post-abortive grief as well. I mean, I guess for me, I still feel like I'm in the process of finding full healing, and it's still sad.
Yeah, and I know for me, just recently my sister had a baby, so that's, that's the first baby in our family since my abortion. That's been a struggle in itself, realising how much love you can have for one little person, and not being able to experience that for my own child in the flesh. So I think it will be something we will continue to walk out. There is no, yay, we're done, all the boxes ticked off, I'm free and healed. It is something that you walk through, and things will come up, I think, for the rest of our lives. And I know we've both definitely progressed, and I'm different now than I was, say, 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but, things will continue to pop up.